Thank you for the torch.
Like you'd get a shirt or a jacket or something back from the cleaner's on.
Right.
And just kind of pull it down into a ring. They would take you caving with them if you could get through that hoop.
All candles are out. The other bits.
Just before we...
These all better, aren't they? Great stuff. Yeah. Fantastic.
Just to set the scene for you, because we're left empty. They were filled in with rubble and forgotten about for about 150 years. Until we came along. We began excavating, digging up these vaults in the 1980s. And in 1996, what we had down from these vaults was one of these vessels. The watchers have been in these spirits in this room. Often customers will feel a fluttering sensation at their face, as if a bird is flapping in front of you, and may come out of the vaults with scratches and scars on their faces. It's clear that what's ever in here, especially the watcher, is very malevolent, very unpleasant, doesn't want us to be down here. So I think that we should probably move on. He's a cobbler making shoes. A favourite thing of his to do when we're down here is look at our shoes, see what types of footwear people are wearing these days. He likes a good solid pair of leather boots, such as you're wearing, but really can't understand this new fashion of trainers. Oh dear. He might be a bit disappointed tonight, but don't worry, he won't be angry, because he is just a very kind old man. Okay. And it's said that his presence here is acting almost as a positive force. It's keeping the Watcher out of this room. In this room in May 1996. It was only 2 months after the vaults had been opened to the public. It was a busy summer's night. And 3 tours were due to come down in quick succession, one after the other. The first tour came down, and they didn't feel particularly scared. The vaults that night weren't all that atmospheric. However, all that seemed to change when they got to this room. The atmosphere turned sour, you could say. And as they were thinking about this, they were storing things like wine and things like that, just for storage. Now, the rest of the group back to the surface and come back down and try and catch this woman. He eventually caught her and calmed her down, and she told him her story. It appeared that as she was standing at the back of the group against the back wall, listening to the guide telling his tale, she began to feel a breath on the back of her neck. Strange, as nobody was behind her. The breath moved round to the front of her face. It was a hot, whisky-smelling breath. She thought how extremely unpleasant it was, but then began to hear a whisper. And the whisper said, "Get out. Get out. Get out!"
building you can see in the distance is an outbuilding of the palace.
Oh, great.
Gucken die aber auch immer in diese Horrorfilme. Dann muss ich die mir auch immer mit anschauen. Das sind auch total fies. Ich weiß nicht, wie die heißt. Ist mir auch relativ scheißegal. Ich will jetzt die ganze Zeit schon gerade der Decke verklicken. Irgendwas von dem muss ich schützen.
It's very wet and muddy here. Instead of coffins, they'd have simply buried in cloth sacks. But also, in times of plague, not even the rich would be afforded a good burial.
when plague came, they simply had to dig a large pit and put as many bodies in as possible. And another section of society which wasn't afforded a proper burial would be suicide victims. I'm afraid in the 17th and 18th centuries, suicide wasn't really understood as a tragedy that we think of it today. Instead, it was a crime. When a person committed suicide, their corpse would very often be put on trial after death, and possibly even hanged. And they wouldn't be allowed to be buried in proper graveyards. Instead, they'd be buried at crossroads, so their restless spirits wouldn't be able to find their way home. Which is why crossroads are often said to be